Good evening and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Drasic, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you? Whoops, Damian.
I am good. As you and our guest tonight know, my router just dropped over dead unceremoniously. So I am in the one room in the house where the wire comes in.
Yeah.
So if you see like my closet in the background and thinking, what is he doing? I've explained it. We've got a great reader tonight, though. That's going to make up for all this crazy.
Yes, we do. I'm really excited about this. Tonight we have Jay Carson, who taught for many years at Robert Morris University, where he was a founding advisor to the literary magazine Rune. He has published more than 100 poems and a number of short stories in local and national journals, magazines, and collections. Jay is also the author of Irish Coffee from Coal Hill Press and The Cinnamon of Desire, which I love that title, from Main Street Rag. He is presently working on a memoir. Jay considers his work Appalachian, accessible, the ongoing problem solving of a turbulent life, and just what you need. So
let's bring him out here.
That's quite a bio.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Good evening, Jay.
Good evening. It's great to see you, Damian.
And good to see you too,
Christina. This is so fun. Listen, that plug about my work being Appalachian was in there even before I was asked on the show.
I guess that was the case. And, you know, you've probably seen even more than we have this acceptance of and embracing of that identity, of Appalachian identity.
Exactly. I think it's so great. It's I spent some time in West Virginia at the university, and I found those people to be the most authentic and the most hardworking people. I loved it down there. It was all the way from my teachers to Crazy Bob the Chicken Killer.
We're going to have to ask you about that after the reading.
I think he's my cousin, Jay. I think he's my cousin. I'm in West Virginia right now. I'm pretty sure he's my cousin.
By the way, it's funny. I wanted to mention the Rune before we get to the reading. I see Rune now in people's bios in magazines.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm flipping through journals, I like to read like, oh look, Rune, and I think that is the work of there's the footprint of Jay Carson and one of our other WANA readers from Robert Morris, John Lawson.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So that's very cool. Yeah. All right, let's disappear and let Jay do his thing.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks very much, guys. I'm going to read a short story tonight, which I have time to come in under the time limit given to me. I hope you like it. It's generally a story about three guys trying to grow up, one more than the others, and it is entitled Nightcap. You should not have run over his rims, I said. He should not have taken my parking place, my cousin Bill answered. Not equivalent. A parking place for a nice expensive set of wheel rims, I answered. Like most bar tables of drinkers, Huey, my cousin Bill, and I usually thought we looked, talked, and were thinking great again there at Artie's on Baum Boulevard, hurting little of the world with our only slightly damaging but always to us funny pranks, hysterically laughing and drinking that summer of 74 away. I had a general sense of the nonsense of our self-appraised okayness, but the repetition of these nights was giving me an almost out-of-body insight that we were just a bunch of burgeoning bums. I was set off by Bill's pulling off, God, he was a moose, and driving over a new set of Cadillac-specific wheel rims, and by my loss of a job at a call center selling theater subscriptions, and the breakup with Susan, my first real girlfriend. Sharing my insight was harder than becoming enlightened. You know, you guys, we got to get a grip. We all need to wake up. I'm feeling pretty sprightly, said Huey, the smartest and least accomplished of all his successful brothers. and potentially the most dangerous, alleged to have blown up an oil well field in Texas during his short stay at Texas Christian University. One of the few things he wouldn't talk about. We're all doing fine, chimed in my hefty cousin Bill, still working on the latest 12-ounce addition to his big beer belly. We don't have jobs like all our friends. We live at home. It's already 2 a.m. and we have no reason to go home. Nobody at this table is getting up before noon tomorrow. A car like that guy had, he'll have no trouble replacing his rims. Huey jumped in to my cousin's rescue. Huey's right. Calm down. We're just having some fun now. We all have plans. Real plans containing a future? Grown-up jobs, I asked. Maybe you're just feeling emasculated because the city's repaving your street and you can't get your car out. I hate it when I can't drive. You guys need to get out of here, the bartender interrupted. It's already past legal closing. Want me to call the cops? Shut up, my cousin let fly with his usual 5-drink charm. Like your bar, want us to call the State Liquor Control Board and have this rat trap closed for good? Or for me to come over there and explain it to you? Bill was big enough and scary enough to keep pretty much all his fights verbal. I never saw him lose a fight or throw a punch. More pretend life, I thought. I looked around Artie's bar and supposed grill, although I never saw anything in the food line more than the pickled eggs on the bar that looked like a cholera hotbed and some sausage strips that were at least wrapped. Dirty floor, dirty tables, one ancient pinball I never saw played, and an old toothless swamper waiting shakily for us to leave so he could mop the floor and earn his last drink for the night. Artie's was stripped down for booze. It wasn't the first night we'd closed the place. I was 25, a college graduate. Many of my friends were married, were lawyers, accountants, businessmen, and one a doctor. What the hell was I doing there? Let's go, I said. Let's go home. I still have my Artists and Models Club card, Huey said. Let's get us a nightcap. Or we could go up to the hill and find that whorehouse again, my cousin offered. Wasn't that Marie something? We have to stop this, I said. Are you okay, Ray? We know you were really bummed by that firing on top of losing Susan, Huey said. Yeah, it's their loss. Susan's and that dramatic theater subscription job. Bill laughed at his dramatic joke. Stick with us and we'll cheer you up, Huey said. I've had it. Take me home, I said. All the way home, we reiterated the same arguments, getting nowhere, but they were annoyingly kind. A loss of a girlfriend and a job all in 1 week is tough, Huey said. I'll buy you a girl on the hill, Bill offered. I'm talking about doing something serious in life, more than telephone sales and worrying about girlfriends and whores. You'll feel better tomorrow. You'll have a chance to feel better tonight if you come with us up to the Photographers and Models Club. They have a lot of nice-looking and legitimate babes. Home, I said, for the last time. And they did, letting me off as close as they could, considering my street was torn up a block either way for repaving. Don't try to take your car out. That drop from the driveway will tear up your undercarriage, my cousin said. You should ask those workers to build you a little down ramp, Bill asked. More fantasy, I thought. Yeah, or call one of us, Huey said. I had trouble sleeping even at 3 a.m. I started thinking about some kind of real job I could do. What do business people do? Just as I was falling off to sleep, I heard the big machine starting. Oh no, I said into the pillow as the earth mover revved louder and louder. I tried putting the pillow over my head, but the noise was relentless. I knew who was starting an earth mover at 3 a.m. I don't know whether I worried as much about keeping them out of jail as keeping my neighbors and parents from knowing. Dad was getting sick of me, and I had no other place to go. I ran downstairs and through the front door to the porch. There, on top of a giant humming earth mover, stolen city worker cap atop his head, was Huey. It looked like only minimal earth had been moved, but Huey was clearly on the case, in the cab, moving levers, getting the scoop up and down, all ready to build me a ramp out of my driveway. Down the street now, a city police car was berthing two emerging cops. Huey saw them, finally gave up, jumped to the big tread, and proudly took off and waved the cap towards me, looking like he just hit the winning run in the World Series. I knew a couple of things at that moment. Least important, that Huey would run like the track athlete he could have been, through my backyard, into the alley, and beyond, where Bill would have the car running, and they would somehow get away as usual. I also knew that to have any kind of adult life, I had to stay away, far away from these guys. And I knew I would always have a slight ache to be on that big earth mover with Huey jumping down to the getaway car. Thank you.
That was lovely, Jay. Thank you so much for reading that.
Thank you.
Stick with us. I see, it's funny because I think there's a little bit of temporal distance between us. We're not quite the same age. And somehow I think we had the same cousin.
Yes, that's quite possible. He seemed capable of shape-shifting.
I really loved the line, or the piece of the line, sharing my insight was harder than becoming enlightened.
Yeah.
And I find that to be the absolute truth. I mean, you can receive enlightenment, but that don't mean that you can dispense it, right? Yeah, that was really wonderful. So,
thank you.
What compelled you? I mean, after all these years of lots of poetry, some fiction, to write a memoir? What was the driving force behind that?
I just decided that I wanted to pull everything together. I've done poetry, I've done fiction, I've done research papers, I've done all kinds of stuff. And I thought, well, what have I really done? So I just decided to lay out what I've really done. And it seems to be fairly common. Two of my classmates from high school are doing the same thing. So it's an attempt, I guess, to get a better understanding of everything I've done. And I'm real glad I'm doing it. It's great to look back and see the stuff that I have done.
So do you feel like, what are the challenges or the differences you found between these genres, between memoir, poetry, fiction, in terms of, the telling, the way that you shape the product that you're trying to produce?
Well, weirdly enough, I think in fiction and poetry, you can hide a little bit, because you can sort of have a Huey or cousin Bill doing stuff that you actually might have done. Whereas in a memoir, you got to say that was me. So I think there's a lot more honesty in it, and it's very hard to get a handle on all that stuff. I mean, obviously, you can't do everything. So what do you do? What do you leave out? And it's challenging. And I find myself going back and saying, "Oh, that's too good a story to leave out." So it's fun. It's
one
fun.
of the things. Oh, sorry. One of the things I really like about what you're doing with that short story is, I think, I may be wrong, but I think you're one of the first people, generationally speaking, to be writing the coming of age story about somebody who's 25.
Right.
That's
Right.
really good.
Jesus and us grew up late. Right? Whoa, it was tough.
Awesome. Well, that could be, on the cover of your book. Jesus and us grew up late. That would sell copies.
or get me in big trouble. One of the two of them. Yeah.
Well, and then below that you could say, Jay and I grew up late. Jesus.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody could prove that he didn't say it. So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Are you going to question that? So we have a comment from one of our regular viewers.
Okay.
Rusty Barnes is on tonight, and he says that was something. Thanks. And I know we have a bunch of regular viewers, and sometimes they respond, and sometimes they tell us later how much they enjoyed it. And I'm sure that we've got other people who also really love listening tonight.
Well, thank you very much. The choice of the story was mostly dictated by the time available, but sometime, Damien, I want, and maybe you, Christina, want to show you a story about the called the. It's based on the Vonda Jean Mullinax case, which I had a lot of fun with. And then takes place in West Virginia.
There you go.
I've so this is all the West Virginia stories. I mean, that's the requirement by birth. It's like all the libraries in West Virginia have to buy books by West Virginia authors. So I'm required to read all the stories about West Virginia.
That's great. That's great.
So this memoir, Jay, is your third book.
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you have the other books with you that we can take a peek at?
I do. Thank you very much for suggesting that. This is Irish Coffee, which is a chapbook, Coal Hill Review. Got some nice blurbs on the back.
None from Jesus, though.
What's that?
None from Jesus, though.
Well, pretty well respected people.
I'm going with The Night is Young, Christina. And then we've got The Cinnamon Desire.
Cinnamon of Desire, right. And that's Main Street Rag. And
we've had quite a few Main Street Rag folks on here. We've had Kayla and Leslie and all sorts of folks who are doing stuff with Main Street Rag.
You've had an impressive list of people appearing on your show. I was very impressed.
We were so grateful. We feel very fortunate that people are willing to use their time this way, and we're also we feel very lucky that people are watching.
Now, do you guys meet in public at all, or I mean, person to person, when before the pandemic, after the pandemic? What?
Well, we have had a little bit of that. The show was actually started in response to the pandemic.
Okay. All right.
So we're almost 2 years old. The show will be 2 years old at the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
But our intention after the pandemic kind of went away was to go back out, to be live and in person. And we've done a couple of shows that way. But every time we get those gears rolling again, then we come back in because we're
varianted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you do have some more feedback here. Richard St. John says, I'm an irregular viewer. Please tell Jay his choice of story was great.
Awesome.
Love that. And Judy Robinson says, wonderful. So
nice.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Christina, we've got some crazy stuff coming up. We've got Madness coming up, do we not? Madness.
Yes.
Tell the folks about that.
The entire month of March is dedicated to Mad Women in the Attic from Carlow University, and this is the lineup. Kayla Sargentson will open it. Sarah Williams Devereaux, Brianne Griffith, Stephanie Ramser, and Beatrice Vassar all will be reading in the month of March, and we cannot wait. That program obviously has mentored and produced amazing women writers since 1979. So we are so happy to turn our march over to the Mad Women in Pittsburgh. So stay tuned for that, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week at 8.
Thanks for being
Thanks,
on,
Jay.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
guys.